Good morning. We are beginning today with the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, Book 5, Chapter 31. This is in the midst of the Shumbha Nishubha war, just after the slaying of Nishumbha, one of the brothers, the younger of the two brothers. Vyasa said, O Raja, Shumbha, the lord of the Daityas, hearing the words of the soldiers, began to say then, with eyes rolling with anger, having heard the news of his brother's death, O fools, what are you saying? How can I do this unspeakably mean act and then hope to live? They're advising him to surrender and retreat. How shall I be able to roam in this world when I have become the cause in the slaying of my brothers and ministers? Time is the more powerful cause of all that takes place, good or bad. So when this formless time is the supreme ruler, what use is there in my brooding over the result? Let whatever come that is inevitable. Let whatever be done that is destined to take place. Death or life, I do not think of either. The more so when time is never able, even if worshipped, to thwart off death or life when their proper moment arrives. See, the god of rain gives us rain in the rainy season, but it is seen that sometimes it does not rain in the month of Shravan, whereas it rains sometimes in the month of Agrahayana, Posha, Magha, or Palguna, which are months that are not typically rainy. Therefore, it is evident that time is not the chief factor. Fate is stronger than time. Time is merely the instrumental cause. It is this fate that has created all this universe. It cannot be rendered otherwise. I consider fate as supreme, fie on one's own exertion. For lo Nishumbha, who had before conquered all the Devas, is slain today by an ordinary woman. Alas, when Rakta Bija too had been slain, how can I desire to hold on to my life, foregoing all my name and fame? Even Brahma, who has created all this universe, will come to an end no sooner than his longevity expires. 4,000 yugas constitute one day of Brahma, and in that one day 14 Indras perish. So twice the life of Brahma constitute the life of Vishnu. Similarly, twice the life period of Vishnu constitutes the life period of Mahesha, and when their longevities expire, they come to an end. This timing that he's giving here does not agree with what it says elsewhere in the Shastras. It's unsurprising that the demon Shumbha might be wrong about this, but just a reminder not to take him as authoritative on that. This visible earth, mountains, sun, and moon all will perish, so it has been specially ordained by destiny. Therefore, O fools, I do not care a bit for death. When a being is born, he must die, and when anyone dies, he will be born again. There is no doubt in this. So one ought to preserve one's name and fame, which is more permanent than this transitory body. Prepare my chariot. I will go today to the battlefield. Let victory or defeat come as it may, as fate has ordained. I will go to fight. Thus saying, Shumbha mounted on the chariot quickly and went to the Devi Ambika. Then the fourfold army, cavalry, infantry, chariots, horses and elephants, and innumerable soldiers followed him with weapons in their hands. Going there to the Himalaya mountain, he saw the Divine Mother sitting on her lion. She appeared so very lovely as to enchant the three worlds. Her body was decorated with various ornaments. All the auspicious gems were manifest. The Devas, Gandharvas, Yakshas, and Kinnaras in the heavens were all worshipping her with hymns and parijata flowers, and the Devi was making beautiful sounds with bells and conches, indicative of her victory. Seeing her, Shumbha was even still much enchanted with passionate love and struck with the 5 arrows of Kama, and thought, how wonderful is her lovely countenance. See how wonderful and amazing is her skillfulness, delicacy and capability to endure the hardships of war, though quite contrary to each other, are both in her. What a wonder is this! Her body is extremely delicate, and her limbs lean and thin. Besides, she is lately blooming into womanhood. Still, she does not feel any passion. This is undoubtedly very wonderful. She is exquisitely beautiful. She is as exquisitely beautiful as could be desired of in one's mind. And though she is endowed with all auspicious signs, yet she has no inclinations for all the pleasures and allurements of the world, and is now slaying powerful asuras. This is wonderful indeed. Now what steps could be taken so that this lady come under my control? All the mantrams also are not with me now to bring over the swan-eyed lady unto me. This proud, lovely lady is the incarnation of all mantrams. How will she come under my control? This heroic lady cannot be controlled by conciliatory words, by allurements, by dissensions. It is not advisable to fly away from the battlefield and go to Patala. What am I to do? Where shall I go in this critical moment? And if I die at the hands of this lady, that death is not a glorious one. It will take away my fame. The death on the battlefield is conducive to one's well-being, so the sages say, when both the parties are equally strong. The Devas have created this lady, stronger than even 100 strong men. She is a woman merely in name. This lady is very powerful and has come here to destroy the Danavas. There is no doubt in this. What effect will conciliatory words now produce on her? She has come to slay us. Will she be appeased with good words? Neither will allurements of precious things be of any avail, for she is decked with various arms and weapons, nor will it be of any use to sow dissensions between the Devas and her. Further, all the Devas are under her control. Therefore, it is far better to die than to run. Victory or death will come to me today as fate has ordained. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus thinking in his mind, Shumpa became ready to show his strength and firmly resolved to fight. He said to the Devi before him, O Devi, fight. But, O one of delicate limbs, thy so much toil is in vain. Thou hast no sense at all, for thou art doing contrary to the doings of womankind. The eyes of women, the pair of eyes of women are their arrows, their eyebrows are their bow, their gestures and postures are their weapons, and their hits are those persons, in other words, those their targets, are those persons who are skilled in amorous love sentiments. The dyes used in painting the bodies are their armor, their mental desires are their chariots, their soft, sweet words and conversations are their trumpets. Women have no other things for their war preparations. Therefore, O beloved, any other weapons are mere mockeries and ridiculous. Their modesty is their ornament. Impudence can never grace them. An exquisitely beautiful woman, if engaged in a fight, will look harsh. Especially when thou wilt draw thy bow, how wilt thou be able to hide thy breasts? When thou wilt run with thy club, where will thy gentle treadings go? O beautiful, thy counselors are this Kalika and the stupid Chamunda. Chandika is thy advisor. Her voice is very hoarse. How then can she be able to nurse thee or to calm and console and be gentle toward thee? Again, this lion, terror of all beings, is thy mount. Therefore, O dear, leave aside all these and come over unto me. O beautiful one, that thou art ringing thy bells and dost not sound thy lute, goes quite against thy beauty and youth. O sensitive one, if thou likest to fight, better assume an ugly appearance. Let thy nature be ferocious and cruel. Let thy color be black as a crow, lips elongated, legs long, nails ugly, teeth horrible, and let thy eyes be ugly or yellow like those of a cat. O Devi, assume such an ugly appearance and then stand firmly for the fight. O dear-eyed one, speak first harsh words unto me, then I will fight with thee. My hand does not get up to strike thee with beautiful teeth in the battlefield, who art like a second Rati, Rati being the Devi of Kama. Vyasa said, O best of the descendants of Bharata, when Shumbha said thus, the divine mother, seeing him passionate, smiled and said, O stupid one, why are you so much distressed with passion? Fool, if your hand does not come forward to strike at me with weapons, then fight with this ugly Kalika or Chamunda as you like. They are your best compeers in the battlefield. They will fight with you. I will stand as a mere witness. Thus saying, the Devi Bhagavati said to Kalika in sweet words, O Kalika, your nature is fierce. This Shumbha likes the fierce women, so you kill him. Vyasa said, and I will mention here, remember that at the end of last time, Andy mentioned that the text referred to Nishumbha killing Kalika as a brief mention. Perhaps he did, but here she is, clearly unkilled. So in whatever way he struck her down, it didn't stick. Vyasa said, O Raja, that Kalika the incarnation of death, thus ordered, immediately took up her club and became ready to fight, as if sent there directly by the god of death. A dreadful fight then ensued between the two, Kalika and Shumbha, and the high-souled Munis and the Devas were present there and witnessed the great event. Shumbha first struck at Kalika, raising his club. Kalika then struck Shumbha in return with her club, violently. Instantly, she made a dreadful sound, broke down his chariot glittering like gold into pieces, killed the chariot horses and the charioteer. Walking then on foot, with a very heavy club in his hand, Shumbha struck with great anger on the breast of Kalika, and he began to laugh. Kalika, in the meanwhile, rendering his stroke useless, soon took up her axe and cut off his left hand, pasted with sandal paste and decked with arms and weapons. His left hand thus cut off, his whole body was drenched with the torrents of blood. Yet he came up with his club in his remaining hand and struck Kalika again with it. Kalika too laughed, and with her scimitar cut off his right arm, holding the club and ornamented with an armlet. Shumbha became angry and came up violently to kick her, when Kalika quickly cut off his 2 legs. His arms and legs thus severed from his body. The demon tried to frighten Kalika, and told her, wait, wait. And soon he came up before her, slithering like a serpent. Seeing the demon coming, Kalika severed his neck from his body like a lotus, like picking a lotus flower from the stem. Blood began to gush out in continuous streams. O Raja, the head of Shumbha, thus severed from his body, fell on the ground like a mountain, and immediately the life left his body. Seeing the Danava fall down lifeless, Indra and the other hosts of Devas began to worship the Devi, Bhagavati, Chamunda, and Kalika, and chanted lovely hymns to them. The winds then began to blow pleasantly. All the quarters looked very clear, and fire and sacrificial altars, being circumambulated, became very propitious. On the other hand, those Daityas that remained alive quitted their arms and weapons, bowed down to the Divine Mother, and fled away, all and one, to the Patala. O Raja, I have now described in regular order to you how the Devi protected the Devas and destroyed Shumbha and other Asuras. Those human beings on the surface of the earth that read this story from the beginning to the very end, or hear it constantly, get all their desires fulfilled. There is no doubt in this. O Raja, verily he gets a son who has not got any son. He gets abundance of wealth who is without any wealth. The diseased become cured. What more can be said than the fact that he who hears this glorious deed of the Devi in its entirety gets all that he desires? O Raja, that man who reads daily this holy anecdote or hears it has never to fear from his enemies. In addition, he gets liberation after leaving this body. And here ends the 31st chapter of the 5th book on the death of Shumbha, and the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 32. Janamejaya said, O best of Munis, the glory of Chandika has been fully described by you. Or specifically what he's saying, the glory of Chandika, the Chandi Mahatmya, which is normally the Chandi Mahatmya refers not to this telling of the story, but to the telling of the story found in the Markandeya Purana. But it's the same story, just in that case, just worded differently, a different telling of the same story. The Chandika Mahatmya has been fully described by you. By whom was she worshipped in the ancient times after the reading and hearing of her 3 glorious deeds? So her 3 glorious deeds of the Chandi Mahatmya are the killing of Madhukaitabha by Vishnu, but with her help, the killing of Mahishasura, and the killing of Shumbha and Nishumbha. And we have now heard all 3. Who was it that derived the best effects by worshipping the Devi, the bestower of all desires? When and with whom was she pleased and then offered boons? O ocean of mercy, kindly narrate fully all these things to me. O Brahmana, describe to me also the rules as to how the meditation, worship, and homa, or fire sacrifice of the great Devi are conducted. Sutta said, so we're zooming one narrator further out. Sutta is narrating this conversation between Janamejaya and Vyasa. Sutta said, O Rishis, Krishna Dvaipayana, the son of Satyavati, that's Vyasa, was very glad to hear these questions of Janamejaya and began to describe how the worship of the Mahamaya, the Devi Bhagavati, is to be done. Vyasa said, O Raja, in days of yore, in Svarochisha Manvantara, there was a Raja named Suratha, very liberal-minded and devoted to govern his subjects well. He was truthful, active, energetic, and devoted to his guru. He always served the twice-born, and he never used to hold any sexual intercourse except with his legal wife. He was generous, not liking to quarrel with anybody, and expert in the science of archery. While he was governing his kingdom, the Mlecha hill tribes became his enemies. They destroyed the city of Kola, became very haughty and turbulent, and desired to conquer the whole earth by their sheer force. Thus, accompanied by the great fourfold army of elephants, chariots, cavalry, and infantry, they came to conquer the dominion of the Raja Suratha. A dreadful fight then ensued between the Raja and the dreadful Mlechas. O Raja, the Mlecha forces were not at all numerous, whereas the armies of the Raja were large. Still, the Mlechas were lucky to win the battle. The Raja, defeated, fled to his own city, which was a strongly fortified place. The good Raja, wise in statesmanship, when he saw that his ministers had gone over to the enemy's party, became very anxious and thought whether it was advisable for him to wait for a better opportunity, remaining within his own extensive city, well guarded by a strong wall and ditch, or whether it would be better to go out and fight on. The Raja thought that it would not at all be advisable to consult with his ministers, who were then under the control of his enemies. What then would he do under the circumstances? Those vicious ministers could at any time deliver him to the hands of his enemies, and what would then happen to him? Those men that are avaricious can do anything in this world. Therefore, it would never be advisable to trust them. The people under the sway of greed commit injury to their fathers, brothers, friends, acquaintances, their gurus, and the adored brahmanas. When the ministers had joined with his enemies, they could well be classed with the vicious. He had no doubt in this. Never could they be trusted under the above circumstances. Thus, pondering over the matter, the Raja became distracted in mind, or distressed in mind, and finding no remedy, he went out of the city alone, mounted on a horse, just ran away. The intelligent Raja, helpless, rode into a dense forest, just trying to escape, and thought, where would he go now? Knowing then that there was at a distance of 3 yojanas from that place, or about 24 miles, a hermitage of the great ascetic, the Sumedha Rishi, the Raja went there. O Raja, that hermitage was more beautiful than even the heavens. It was on the bank of a river. Various kinds of trees were there. It was frequented with wild animals, having no enmity with each other, due to the peaceful aura of the place. The whole place was echoed with the sounds of cuckoos. The students were studying, and the atmosphere reverberated with their Vedic chants. Hundreds of herds of deer, or herds of hundreds of deer, were running there. Rice trees had grown there wildly at places. And they're, I'm assuming what we mean is rice plants, since of course rice does not grow on trees. So there was wild rice, and their harvests were collected at places. Good flowery trees and others with delicious fruits were seen there. At places, fragrant smells of oblations of ghee, etc. were coming. All these were delighting to anyone who went or stayed there. The Raja Suratha was very glad to see that ashrama. He became fearless, having reached it, and wanted to stay there in the hermitage of the Brahmin. Fastening his horse at the root of a tree, the Raja humbly approached to the Rishi and saw that the Muni was seated on a deerskin under the shade of some dense sal trees. He was peaceful, lean, and thin by tapasya, having eaten little for a long time. His stature was straight, and he was teaching his disciples and explaining to them the meaning of the Veda Shastras. He was void of anger greed, etc., beyond all dualities, without any jealousy, always devoted to the contemplation of the self, truthful and full of peace. Seeing him, the Raja was filled with tears and prostrated before him and fell like a stick before him. The Muni, seeing him thus, asked him to get up and inquired about his welfare. A disciple then, at the sign of the Guru, gave him a kushasana to take his seat. So in other words, the Guru made a sign for one of his disciples to offer his own seat to the newcomer. The Raja got up and, at the Guru's permission, took his seat on that kushasana. A kushasana means a mat of woven kusha grass. Then the Muni worshipped the Raja duly by offering to him water to wash his feet, and arghya, an offering of green grass, rice, etc. Then the Muni asked him, "Who are you? Why have you come here? And why are you so anxious? Tell frankly all these that are not yet known to me. What do you want? Speak out your mind. Even if it be impracticable, I will no doubt try my best to accomplish your desired ends." The Raja said, "O Muni, I am the Raja Surata, defeated by my enemy. I have left my kingdom, palace, and wife, and have come to your refuge. O Brahmana, I am ready to do whatever you order me. On this surface of the earth, there is no one but you who can protect me. Now I am very much terrified by my enemy. Therefore I have come to you. O Muni, you protect those who seek your refuge. I have now come here to seek your shelter, so save me from this danger." The Maharshi said, "O Raja, stay here without any fear. None of your enemies will be able to enter this hermitage by the power of my tapasya, even if they be very powerful. O best of Rajas, you will not be allowed to kill any animals here. You will have to sustain yourself on wild rice, roots and fruits, etc., as the rules of forest living permit." Vyasa said, "Thus hearing his words, the Raja began to live there with all purity and without any fear on roots and fruits, giving up the killing of animals." Once, the Raja, while taking rest under the shade of a tree, while thinking of various things, thought of his own house. He thought, "My enemies have no doubt acquired my kingdom. They are vicious and wicked, shameless mlechas, and always addicted to sinful deeds. Certainly they must be tormenting my subjects. My elephants and horses may not be regularly getting their food, and may have become powerless or weak with hunger. They may be suffering very much from my enemies. All the servants that were nourished by me before are now suffering from troubles, having been subjected to them by my enemies. The wicked enemies are certainly squandering away my hoarded wealth to bad immoral purposes, and gambling, drinking, reveling with prostitutes. Those mlechas and my ministers are always intent on vicious acts. They do not know who are the proper persons to be given charities, so they will no doubt exhaust my coffers in doing sinful acts." While the Raja was thinking such thoughts, seated at the root of a tree, there came one man of the Vaishya Varna, looking very distressed. So a merchant. The Raja saw him and instantly bade him take a seat beside him. Then the Raja asked the Vaishya, "O noble one, of what Varna are you? Whence are you coming to this forest? What is your name? Why do you look so pale and distressed? What calamity has befallen you? O good one, two persons become friends whenever they speak 7 words amongst them. According to this rule, I am your friend. Tell me therefore truly all these things." Vyasa said, "The Vaishya, hearing these words from the Raja, took his seat and felt himself much relieved, and thinking that he had met with a saint there in the forest, began to speak. "O my friend, I belong to the Vaishya Varna. My name is Samadhi. I was rich. Never I had any jealousy towards anybody. Always to speak truth and was devoted to religious acts. My wife and sons are very greedy of money and are adharmic. They cut off all their affections and connections with me, are very difficult to cut through, and have driven me out of the house on the pretext that I am very miserly. Thus forsaken by my relatives, I have now come to this forest. You look to be a fortunate man. Therefore kindly, O dear one, give me now your introduction and oblige." The Raja said, "I am the Raja Surata. Lately I had a defeat from the dacoits." Dacoits means bandits. "Moreover, my ministers deceived and betrayed me. Consequently, I am deprived of my kingdom and have now come here. O best of Vaishyas, fortunately you have come to me today as my friend. We too will repose here gladly in this beautiful forest of trees. O intelligent one, quit now your sorrow, be calm and quiet, and rest with me at your leisure here happily. The Vaishya said, O Raja, my friends and relatives must be helpless, very sorrowful and distressed at my absence. They must have been troubled very much by diseases and misfortunes, no doubt, and have become very anxious. O Raja, I cannot remain quiet. My mind is being troubled with the thought how my wife and sons are spending their times now, in pain or in happiness. I'm always thinking, when will I again see my sons, wife, relatives, friends, acquaintances, and my house? I cannot make my mind calm and quiet. The Raja said, O intelligent one, what pleasure can you expect from seeing your wicked sons and your treacherous relatives who have driven you out of your own house? Even enemies are far better, provided they do good to us. What sort of friends are they who impose on us afflictions and sorrows? Do you therefore make your mind calm and quiet and remain here in greatest peace and happiness. The Vaishya said, O Raja, even those that are wicked and cruel cannot abandon their relatives. Today my mind is greatly agitated with thoughts of my relatives. I cannot remain quiet. The Raja admitted, my mind too is incessantly troubled with the thoughts of my kingdom. Come, let both of us go to the Muni and ask him what is the medicine for these our mental agonies. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus making their determinations, they went humbly to the Muni to ask him what were the causes of their sorrows. The Raja first went close to the Muni and, bowing down before him, took his seat and began to ask calmly and quietly these questions to the Muni, who was sitting, calm and serene. And here ends the 32nd chapter of the 5th book on the Raja Suratas going to the forest in the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 33. The Raja Surata said, O Muni, this Vaishya has become a friend of mine in the forest. He has been expelled from his home by his sons and wife, and he has now come here to this forest. He is now suffering very much from the bereavement of his family and has become greatly troubled in his mind. He is not getting any peace whatsoever. I am also become like him and have become very distressed owing to my kingdom being robbed away from me. This thought, though really devoid of any substantial cause, will not leave my heart now. Oh, my elephants and horses now under my enemies have become weak with hunger and maltreatment. My servants are suffering very much owing to my absence. My enemies will within no time forcibly squander away all my hoarded riches. Thoughts like these are not giving me any happiness. I cannot even get any sleep owing to these cares and anxieties. O Lord, I know that this world is false as a dream, yet my mind is so deluded that I cannot make it quiet. Who am I? What are those horses and elephants to me? They are not my brothers, sons, or friends, yet I feel very much for them, and am troubled with their troubles. O Muni, I know these all are delusions. Still, I am not able to make my mind free from them. This is very wonderful indeed. What is the cause of all this? O Lord, nothing is veiled from your sight. You are fully able to solve all these doubts. Therefore, O ocean of mercy, kindly explain to me and this Vaishya the cause of all this delusion. Vyasa said, O Raja, when the Rajasurata asked thus, the Muni in reply said to him the following words full of wisdom, so that his delusion and sorrow might vanish. The Muni said, O Raja, I will tell you the cause of bondage as well as the cause of release of all the beings in this universe. She is known as Mahamaya. She is the Mula Prakriti, the state of equilibrium of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Even Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Indra, Varuna, Vayu, and the other devas, Gandharvas, Nagas, Rakshasas, humans, deer, animals, birds, trees, and various kinds of creepers, all are under Maya. Thus they are all bound, and they all get released when they are released by that Maya. By her is created all this world, moving and unmoving. All beings are caught in her net, and all are under her control. You are Kshatriya, so Rajoguna preponderates in you, and your heart is thus rendered naturally impure. She, by her Maya, deludes even the minds of those who are jnanis or wise. You are but an ordinary man compared to them. Even Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha, though possessed of vast wisdom, still roam under the sway of Maya and the three worlds, completely deluded by their attachments to the sensual objects. O Raja, in the Satya Yuga, in ancient times, Vishnu Narayana himself performed a very hard tapasya in Shveta Dvipa, which is a holy island in the Kshirasagara, in the ocean of milk. He passed away full 10,000 years in meditation with the object of obtaining the unbroken everlasting bliss and becoming steadfastly attached to Brahma Vidya. O Raja, Brahma too became engaged in performing a tapasya, meditating upon the primordial force, Adya Shakti, in a very wonderful solitary place for the cessation of delusion. Once on a time, Vasudeva Hari wanted to go to another place. He got up and started to see other places. Brahma also left his place and started for another destination. When they met each other on the way, each one asked the other, "Who are you?" The Prajapati answered, "I am the creator Brahma." Hearing thus the Brahma's words, Vishnu said, Oh, you fool, I am Achyuta Vishnu, therefore I am the creator of this world. You are inferior to me as there is so much of Rajoguna and preponderance in you. Know me as the eternal Vasudeva, preponderating in Sattva Guna. Do you not remember that I fought a dreadful battle for you and thus saved your life a short while ago? I slew the two Danavas, Madhu and Kaitava, when you were so much distressed by them and took my refuge. How then do you boast now? O fool, quit this vain boasting now. In this wide world there is none superior to me. The Rishi said, thus engaged in disputing with each other, their lips were quivering with anger and their eyes got red, when behold, there appeared suddenly between those two disputants a nectar-like white lingam, wonderfully long and extensive. Then a voice from no apparent source broke out in the heavens and addressed Brahma and Vishnu, who were quarreling thus. Whoever amongst you will be able to go to the end of this lingam, whether beyond its top or below its bottom, he is certainly the superior of you two. Let one of you therefore go down to Patala and let the other go up to the heavens. Leave off your useless disputations and take my word as proof. It is always advisable to select an umpire to decide such a quarrel as this that has sprung up between you two. The Rishi said, O Raja, hearing thus the divine word, both of them became ready and began energetically to measure the length of the wonderful lingam that stood in front of them. Vishnu went down to Patala and Brahma went up to Akasha. So Akasha means the ether, but in a poetic sense, it's often also used to refer to the sky. So that's the sense used here. Went up to the sky to measure the lingam, and thus to ascertain their superiority. Going down some distance, Vishnu got tired, and doing his best, when he could not reach the end of the lingam, he returned and remained at the original meeting place. On the other hand, Brahma was ascending to the skies when a Ketaki flower dropped to him from the head of the lingam. He became greatly glad and also returned to the desired meeting place. Brahma became very much elated with vanity, and when he returned, he at once showed that flower to Vishnu and spoke thus the false words, O Vishnu, this Ketaki flower has been obtained by me from the head of the lingam. I have brought this to you simply so that you would recognize it and be convinced in your heart. Hearing these words of Brahma, Vishnu saw the Ketaki flower and said, O Brahma, who is your witness in this matter? He whose words are true, who is equal to all, who is intelligent, pure, and always of good conduct, he can be the witness in such matters of dispute. Brahma said, who will come now as witness from that far-off place? This Ketaki flower is the witness. This will give evidence. Thus saying, Brahma requested Ketaki to give evidence. Ketaki soon replied thus to convince Vishnu, O Vishnu, I was on the head of Mahadeva. Brahma has brought me from there down to this place. You ought not therefore to have any doubt on this point. My word is the evidence. Brahma had gone to the end of the lingam. Some devotee of Shiva put me on his head, and Brahma has got me down from there. Hearing thus the words of Ketaki, which of course is speaking under the influence of Brahma, Vishnu was very much astonished and said, I cannot trust your word. If Mahadeva comes and speaks this himself, then I can trust and take it as a proof. The Rishi said, O Raja, the eternal Mahadeva, hearing the words of Vishnu, spoke thus to Ketaki with great anger. Liar, do not utter such false words. You dropped down from my head, and Brahma, while ascending up, picked you up on the way. Now, as you have told a lie, I will never take you again. You are henceforth forsaken by me. saying this not to Brahma, but to the Ketaki flower. Brahma was then very much put to shame. He bowed down to Vishnu. Mahadeva forsook the Ketaki flower from that date. And this is, indeed, to this day, traditionally, one should not offer Ketaki flowers to Shiva. O Raja, such is the power of Maya. When Brahma, Vishnu, and other wise persons are so self-deluded by her, what need to speak of other ordinary mortals? See, Vishnu, the lord of Lakshmi, is self-deluded and is always deceiving the Daityas for the welfare of the Devas, without any fear whatsoever of the sin that he is thereby incurring. Though he is the lord of all, yet he has to take several incarnations and several wombs, forsaking the pleasures of the heavens and fighting with the Daityas. O Raja, Vishnu is omniscient, and he is the lord of this world. Especially, he is the only one, supreme in the creation of the gods. Now, when Maya exercises such a powerful influence on Vishnu, what wonder is there that ordinary beings would be deluded by her? O Raja, that highest Prakriti draws away violently the hearts of the wise and drags them down into the ocean of the world. That omnipresent Bhagavati is ever the cause of bondage of all when she casts her net of delusion, and she is again ever the cause of liberation when she imparts her knowledge to them. The Raja said, O Brahman, what is her nature? And what is the supreme force? What is the cause of this creation, and where is her highest place? Kindly narrate all these to me. The Rishi said, O Raja, she is beginningless. Therefore, she had no origin at any time. That highest Devi is eternal, and she is always the cause of all causes. O Raja, she resides in all beings as the essential vital force. Deprived of that force, every being is reduced to a dead carcass. She is pervading as the universal force of consciousness in all the beings. The form of this Shakti is the form made up of consciousness itself, the Brahman. Her appearances and disappearances at times are simply for serving the purposes of the gods. O Raja, whenever the Devas and humans worship her, Ambika makes her appearance visible to destroy their pains and sufferings. She assumes various forms and possesses various powers. That highest Ishvari came down of her free will to serve some purpose or other of hers. She is not like the Devas, under the control of Deva or fate. She is not under the influence of time. She puts always every being to motion according to his capacity, or to action according to his capacity. Purusha is not the doer, he is the witness. This whole universe is the object seen. That Devi is the mother of all this that is witnessed. She is the manifested, and she is the unmanifested, and she is the effect also. She alone is the actress, and manifests thus the world, and thus gives the coloring to the Purusha. When the Purusha is colored thus, she quickly destroys these worlds. It is said that Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha are respectively the creator, preserver, and destroyer of the world, but this is merely a statement. Really, they are merely instruments in her hands. Bhagavati has created them in reality for her Leela and stationed them in their respective posts. She has bestowed to them her part manifestations, Saraswati to Brahma, Lakshmi to Vishnu, Girija to Mahesha, and has thus rendered them more powerful. They, the lords of the Devas, always meditate upon and worship her as the creatrix, preservrix, and destructrix of this universe. O Raja, I have thus described to you, as far as my intelligence and knowledge go, the holy greatness and the excellent glory of her. In reality, I have not been able to fully express it. Aim Hrim Klim Chamundai Viche is the 9-lettered mantra. Here ends the 33rd chapter of the 5th book on the description of the greatness of the Devi in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, a Mahapuranam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 34. The Raja said, O Bhagavan, kindly narrate to me in detail now the methods of how to serve and worship the goddess and the mantrams that are used on such occasions. The Rishi said, O Raja, I am now describing the method of how to worship the goddess here. This leads to the fulfillment of all desires, to the liberation from one's bondage, to self-realization, and to the destruction of all miseries. The worshipper has to perform his bath, Then putting on a white cloth, he will have to perform his Vedic and Tantric Sandhya. Then he should, with his heart controlled, perform his Achamana ceremony and select a good auspicious site for his own puja purposes. Next, he should plaster the site with cow dung and spread his sacred asana, his sacred carpet, whereon he is to take his seat with a cheerful mind and sip water for Achamana 3 times. So it's being assumed that the reader knows what all this means, but I will explain some of these things. Vedic and Tantric Sandhya. The Sandhya refers to the rites at the time junctions. So an Orthodox Dvija, an initiated twice born, Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, traditionally will perform the Trikala Sandhya, the rite at sunrise, at solar noon, and at sunset. The Sandhya Vandanam, by the edge of water, the recitation of the Savitri Gayatri mantra upasana, and some other rites that they would all be taught when they come of age as a child. So those are the rites being referred to as the Vedic Sandhya. The Tantric Sandhya, someone might be taught both, but if one is not, so the vast majority, it has always been true that the vast majority of Hindus are not Dvijas, they're Shudras, large majority of the population, and would not be taught the Vedic Gayatri and the Sandhya Vandanam. They would be, if they were interested in performing an equivalent of the same spiritual practice, they would be taught the Tantric Sandhya, which is actually always far more common and widespread than the Vedic. So perform the Vedic or the Tantric version. The Achamana ceremony, perform his Achamana ceremony. This refers to the consecration of holy water and imbibing it for inner purification. It's really simple. There's just, you take a spoon like this. I happen to have this sitting here. A spoon like this, traditionally made of certain metals, or more rather not made of certain metals. Typically, it's not made of steel. In your left hand, spoonful of water into your right hand. The usual mantras, you take 3 sips of water and there's a mantra with each. Typically, the mantras used are Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. And then you rinse your hands with some water and dry them. That's what's referred to by perform his Achamana ceremony. And select a good auspicious site for his own puja purposes. Next, he should plaster the site with cow dung and then spread his sacred asana mat atop that, whereon he is to take his seat with a cheerful mind and then again sip water for Achamana 3 times. Then he is to collect the articles for worship according to his best capacity and place them duly in their respective positions. He is to perform pranayama, and then follows the bhuta shuddhi, the purification of the old and the formation of the celestial body. So this bhuta shuddhi refers to the purification of the elements, when each of the 5 elements that makes up the body is purified. And jiva shuddhi, by which the sadhaka becomes the devatamaya. He then proceeds to matraka nyasa, mentally setting in their places, in their several places, letters of the alphabet, holy Sanskrit letters in the 6 chakras of the body. The 6 chakras. So most modern people who are familiar with Indian spirituality are familiar with 7 chakras. In this case, we're excluding the crown. So mentally placing a letter in each of the other 6 chakras, and then externally by physical action, the letters of the alphabet, which form the different parts of the body of the devata. So first mentally, and then you physically write the letters on your body. He then places his hand on the different parts of his body, uttering distinctly at the same time the appropriate matrika for that part. So the Bhuta Shuddhi process is in meditation, you dissolve the earth tattva within your body into water, dissolve the water tattva into fire, dissolve the fire tattva into air, dissolve the air tattva into ether, dissolve the ether such that you are in meditative visualization at this point, imagining that your entire body is made of ether alone and no other physical elements. Dissolve the ether into ahankara, in ahankara meaning the I sense, that you are not even made of ether. You no longer have a body. You just are I, pure identity without a body. Ahankara into mahat, into the great principle before even individuation of I that has any other. And mahat into prakriti, the final cause, pure nature, pure energy. This process is called Bhuta Shuddhi. He is then to mention the time, date, titi, and month of the year. So you say what time it is, what day it is, what hour it is, what month it is, and make his sankalp, or set his intention for the worship. Then he will have to assign the different parts of his body, the matrika mantrams, duly, as well as his own mantram that he has been given in diksha by his guru. Next, he is to meditate in his own body, the seat of the different devatas. So inviting devatas into their appropriate seats in different places within the body, and do the internal worship of them. He is to breathe life into the deity outside to be worshipped. This is called prana pratishta, breathing with the breath of one's own prana into a murti, to breathe life into an idol, as well as within himself, to be meditated upon and worshipped. Then he is to do the same with the articles for worship, and purify them by sprinkling them with water and astra, or bhat mantram, thus removing all sources of obstacles that are likely to interfere with the act. So sprinkling them with water and the astra mantram refers to consecrating them as weapons to cut through ignorance, cut through obfuscation, or cut through any negative or contrary energy that may be present at the time and place of the ritual. Next, on an auspicious copper plate, he is to draw a 6-angled hexagonal figure, 2 triangles crossing each other with their vertices, one upward and the other below. This is referred to as the Shatkona yantra. You draw this with white sandal paste or with 8 perfumed substances. And outside this figure, an octagonal figure of 8 petals. So you draw like a petal shape, petal shape, petal shape around. So 8 of them surrounding the 2 interlaced triangles. Outside this, he is to draw the boundary lines that are called the Bhupura, or the world city. On each of the 8 petals, he is to write. So if you're not following the visualization of the shape that's being constructed here, it is the Sri Yantra, drawing a Sri Yantra on the copper plate out of powder from the inside to the outside. On each of the 8 petals, he is to write each letter of the 9-lettered Bija Mantram and the 9th letter in the central ovum. And as we were just told, the 9-lettered mantra in question is Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Viche. Next, by the mantram by which breath is infused, or by the Vedic mantram. So the Vedas give one way of doing this, the Tantras give another. He will have to place the yantra in the proper position, and then worship the Adhara Shakti in the central ovum and the holy seat with the Pita mantrams. He will have to invoke the Devi, uttering the Bija mantram over a golden plate or figure, and carefully worship her by offering seats and other articles duly, as enunciated in the Yamala Tantras, etc. Then he will have to perform the sixfold worship of the Ganas, the attendants of the Devi, in the 6 angles of the triangles, and worship Indra, etc., and Vajra and others in the Bhupura, in the world city, the boundary sections, the outer parts of the yantra, and thus finish the puja of the yantra. The entire details of this puja are given in the Prapancha Sara, in the Yamala Tantras. And the translator here inserts some notes. Bhupura is what is thought over outside as the front or in the beginning. In other words, it's the it represents the world surrounding the inner spiritual truth of the core of the yantra. Here, the Gana Devatas are first mentally focused upon and worshipped. The lesser Gana Devatas of the world. Worship outside, worship inside, and see the deity in and out everywhere and be free is the motto of the worship. In the absence of the yantra, one will have to make a metal image of Bhagavati and worship her with the greatest caution, with the mantras as expounded by Shiva in the tantrams of Jamala and others. Yantra is that which restrains. This human body is the yantra, and its imitation is placed outside in various shapes and figures. The yantra is the mystical diagram used by the devotees for worship. Or one may use the Vedic mantrams in worshiping the deity in accordance with the prescribed rules and with his mind controlled. Then, merged in meditation, one is to silently perform the japam of the 9-lettered mantram. In this case, a different 9-lettered mantram. The mantram is Krim Dakshine Kalike Swaha. Japam, the silent mental japam, you're not chanting with your mouth, is of 2 kinds. Nitya, the daily japam, and Paurascharanik, the repetition of the name of the deity accompanied with burnt offerings. So you're not going to do a whole fire homa every day, but that's the second type that is done upon occasion. In the Nitya japam, the everyday japam, Nitya homas are performed. And in the occasional Paurascharanik japam, 1/10 of this is offered. Abhisheka too is 1/10 of this homa. Abhisheka is the holy bath of the idol. Tarpanam is 1/10 of Abhisheka, and the feeding of the Brahmanas is 1/10 of what is done in the Tarpanam. O Raja, thus completing the japam, one is to daily read their chandi, to do the chandi pata, where the 3 glorious deeds of the Devi are narrated. So do the chandi pata. That's a whole procedure. At a minimum, you can chant it. It will take a while, well over an hour, to perform the entire chandi pata procedure and the chandi homa. That takes a good 5, 6, 7 hours and is a giant yajna ceremony. Next, he will have to allow the deity invoked to depart to her own place. The Navaratri Vrata of 9 nights is next to be observed according to the proper rites and ceremonies. Hrim Mahisha Mardinye Swaha is the mantra here. In the bright fortnight of the month of Ashvin or Chaitra is to be observed the fasting of the Navaratri by those who desire their own welfare. Homas are to be offered many in number, and mantrams are to be recited the same as in one's own mantram. Good payasam with sugar, ghee, and honey is mixed is to be offered in this ceremony. Goat meat, or holy leaves of the bael tree, or red karavir flowers, or sesame seed mixed with honey can be used instead in the homa ceremony, instead of the payasam of sugar, ghee, and honey. The special days for the worship of the Devi are the 8th, 9th, or 14th day of each half month, each waning or waxing of the moon. The feeding of the Brahmins must be done on each such occasion. O Raja, thus the poor become wealthy, the diseased get cured, and the persons that have no children get obedient and well-qualified sons. The Raja expelled from his kingdom gets back by the grace of Mahamaya dominion over the whole earth and becomes able to destroy all those enemies of his by whom he was before vanquished when he worships the Devi in the aforementioned ways. The persons desirous of learning get undoubtedly the learning, honorable and auspicious, provided he worships the Devi with his senses restrained. Persons of all Varnas, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Shudras, can become masters of all pleasures and happiness, provided they worship with devotion the Devi, the Jagadhatri, upholder of the world. A man or woman, whoever performs the Navaratri vow, always full of devotion, gets all the desired fruits. Whoever celebrates the holy Navaratri ceremony in the bright fortnight of the month of Ashvina, with his heart full of the thought of the Devi, gets all his desired fruits. O Raja, now I am describing the rites and ceremonies of the Navaratri. Here, a square raised platform or altar is to be made according to the prescribed rules. A water jar is then to be placed on it with the Vedic mantras and to do rites and ceremonies. One will have to make a beautiful yantra according to the previously laid rules, the same as the yantra just described, and the water jar is to be placed on it. Then spread the beautiful yava grains all around the jar. An awning or pandal, a temporary temple structure, is to be erected over the altar and the place of worship, and the site is to be decorated with flowers. Lights and dhupas, incense and perfumes are then to be used in the hall of the Chandika Devi, in the pandal. O Raja, the Devi is to be worshipped thrice, morning, midday, and evening. No miserliness is to be shown in spending wealth for this purpose. This is during the 9 days of Navaratri. Light, dhup, good presents of rice and other edibles, flowers, and fruits of various kinds are to be offered in this worship of the Devi. The chanting of the hymns of the Vedas, songs, and music with various instruments are to be done, and a grand festivity is to be made. Moreover, note this carefully, that virgins, kanyas, are to be worshipped duly with sandal, ornaments, clothings, various edibles, sweet-scented oil, and beautiful garlands. This worship of the virgins, the Kanya Puja, is one of the essentials of Navaratri, the most indispensable and important part. Thus completing the worship of the Devi, Homa is to be done duly with mantrams and other necessary articles on the 8th or the 9th day. Lastly, the Brahmins are to be fed duly, then the worshipper is to take his first meal after fasting on the 10th day, then presents and various articles are to be offered again to the Brahmins according to one's capability and with devotion. O Raja, any man or any chaste married woman or a chaste widow, whoever performs thus the Navaratri Vrata, gets in this world all the desired fruits and enjoys all sorts of enjoyments and gets unbounded happiness, and after death goes to the highest place. And if, owing to some cause or other, he does have to take again his birth in this world, he will be born in an excellent family and will become endowed with good conduct and qualifications and get unflinching devotion towards the Ambika Devi. O Raja, I have thus described to you the rules of the Navaratri ceremony. This vow is the best of all. Highest and greatest pleasures and happiness are obtained in worshipping thus the auspicious Mahamaya. O Raja, better worship Chandika duly according to the prescribed rules. Then you will be able by her grace to conquer all your enemies, and you will regain your excellent dominion, unshaken by any, and you will get again the highest pleasure and happiness when you will be reunited with your wife and your sons in your own palace. There is no doubt in this. O Vaishya, you too better worship the same Mahamaya, the goddess of the universe, worshipping whom leads to the fructification of all desires. You will then be able to regain all your worldly pleasures in your own home and be respected by your relatives and acquaintances, and finally, after your death, you will go to the holy abode of the Devi. There is no doubt in this. Those that do not so worship the Devi are those who go to Naraka. Moreover, they suffer much from various diseases in this world. Those that do not worship the Devi are defeated by their enemies, are void of wife and sons, become stupid and suffer pains from their unsatisfied desires. And those that worship the preserverics of this world with the bael leaves, karavira flowers, shatapatra and champaka flowers, that blessed one devoted to the Devi gets filled with all sorts of enjoyments. O Raja, what more can I say than this? That those who have worshipped the Devi Bhavani with the mantrams approved by the Nigama Shastras, that refers to the Vedas, so that would refer to things like the Devi Suktam, Durga Suktam, Sri Suktam, Medha Suktam, etc., from the Vedas. Those very persons get honor in this world and are filled with all sorts of power and wealth. Verily, they stand foremost in the rank of best men, becoming the only repositories of all the best qualities in this world. And here ends the 34th chapter of the 5th book on the methods of the worship of the Devi. in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. And I think that is a good point to pause for today.
Jai Ma, thank you, Devi.
Jai Ma, thank you very much for coming.
They mentioned briefly the Matrika Nyasa chakra meditation.
Yeah.
But really briefly, do you know anything more about that particular practice? It sounds like something I might be able to Google, but what do you know about that?
Yes. He kind of summarized over a lot of specific practices such as that. The idea is that you are supposed to practice such things under the direct training of a guru.
Nice.
So he was summarizing, yes, there's the Matrika chakra meditation. It's called Matrika Nyasa. A bunch of practices were sort of summarized there as forming the traditional Shakta Upasana, or the traditional mode of goddess worship. But all of that, which he did not go into detail on, the idea is that you're supposed to take Diksha under a guru and learn it directly from them. That's the tradition.
Oh, interesting. Because like Amma, Devi Ma Amachi has like one of her meditations involves meditating on the chakras.
Yeah, she teaches it. Yes, cool. That is a chakra nyasa meditation, exactly as being described here. She doesn't use the letters. She takes a slightly different method, but very similar. Yeah.
And now, for instance, Amma in that meditation teaches, like for instance, unlike the pop yoga culture theory that the second chakra, the sacral chakra, is 2 fingers below your belly button or something like that. Amma suggested it's at the root of your spine.
Yes.
And I not that particularly, but just like in general, are the chakras in a like the Matrika Nyasa chakra meditation, for instance, and in reference to scripts like this. Let's put it this way. I've heard that the modern quote unquote yogic chakra chart of 7 chakras, and they're like the rainbow colors, etc. I've heard that like at least it sounds like some of that is made up and added on in the New Age movement, but I mean, like the placement of them sounds aligned with the Vedas, but what do you know about that?
Mostly. There's sometimes a little bit of confusion about the placement of the chakras. The chakras are in the spinal column, in the bones. Like the heart chakra is not in the heart organ. That's a common misconception. It's in the bone of the vertebrae behind it. And so on. They're all literally in the bones of the spinal column. So that's sometimes a misconception, that people think that the heart chakra is in the heart organ. It is not, and so on.
Right on.
Yeah, and also you're right about the colors. Chakra, the Shastras are very clear. Chakras don't have colors. All teachings about the colors of chakras they are prescriptive, not descriptive. They are prescribing a visualization for meditation. They're not describing something that actually objectively has a color. The chakras don't have colors. They're not visual objects that have properties like color. And for that reason, different tantras will give the same chakra different colors, because they're not describing the actual color of the chakra. It doesn't have one. They're prescribing different visualizations for meditation. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, like for example, the way that I was initiated just visualizes all chakras as gold. It doesn't have different colors for different chakras, and so on. It's not. Yeah.
Cool. But there are some parallels, like there's the, Lam, Vam, Ram, Yum, Hum, Om, Bija mantras or whatever those are, but the chakras, those sound kind of ancient. I don't know if those are parallel with the Vedas or where those came from. I've heard that though before.
That is traditional, yes. It is that is getting into the details of of Laya yoga techniques that traditionally are to be learned only directly from a guru. So I won't get too much into the details of that. Most of what I have been taught about that I was sworn to secrecy on outside of talking to fellow initiates. But yes, that does come from the tantras.
Does a Deepak Chopra CD count as guru?
Definitely not
in
an orthodox sense, not in an orthodox sense, but there's always, it's
what
like
isn't guru though, right?
in a sense, sure. Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Well, for example, like traditionally speaking, the Savitri Gayatri mantra was a holy secret, right? There's many things like that have become very widespread in modern times, and like a lot of people will like listen to it on a CD in their car and so on. So there's a lot of things that have become fairly widespread, such that it's sort of up to each person's discretion or on an honor system for a lot of it as to how whether you see fit to observe the traditional secrecy of some of it. But yeah, that definitely applies to things like the bijakshara syllables of the chakras and so on.
Oh, interesting. It's so the bijas of the chakras could be considered something like, for instance, a TM mantra, bija mantra. Ideally, you got initiated formally through a lineage kind of thing through the bija mantras of the chakras.
And that is why, for example, the scripture here didn't give them. It's too secret. It referred to put the letters in the matrikas, but it didn't say what the letters are. You're supposed to learn that in private initiation from your guru, and so on.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Devla. Good luck. I think are you moving this week?
I am moving this week, yes.
All right. Blessings, man. Much
Thank
love
you.
to you.
Thank you, Andy and Devila. Do you have time for a couple of questions from me as well?
Yes, go ahead.
Amazing, thank you. So I was
Awesome.
that was so interesting to hear about the chakras and mantras. I'm also curious, you were mentioning about the different timings. So I've heard from people that say in Ayurveda, for example, that some people say you shouldn't eat after sunset, some people say you should eat before sunset. And I was thinking, if Sandhya is at sunset, then I guess you would eat afterwards, I guess. And I was just thinking, what do you know about various kind of timetables and timings? That was one question. And the other one was, there was a reference to roots and fruits. And I know that in various fastings, like Navratri, it's encouraged to eat roots and fruits rather than, say, leafy vegetables and things. And I was just wondering if you know anything about why that is as well.
Yeah. So the timings thing, yes. So Ayurveda does traditionally recommend not to eat after sunset. That is true. It's kind of, Ayurveda is sort of a separate branch from the Sandhya Vandanam rite, such that like those instructions are given in different places. And yes, so in traditional Sandhya Vandanam, you would do it. So there's a certain the Kala Sandhi, the time junction around it. It is one. So it's a muhurt. Each of the Kala Sandhya is a muhurta. So 48 minutes, centered on the moment of solar dawn or solar sunset or solar noon. So in theory, you could try to do both. You could do Sandhya Vandanam at the very start of the tithi, finish while the sun is still setting, and then immediately eat, and maybe finish before the sun has set. But in practice, no, most people will do one or the other. Most people I mean, the vast majority even of Hindus don't do Sandhya Vandanam. They're not they're not. I mean, most of them are Shudras, technically speaking. They're not. They haven't undergone Upanayana. Even those who have undergone Upanayana in practice, most of them don't actually do Sandhya Vandanam every day. But of those, and so, I mean, most of them don't follow Ayurveda either. But if those who do, they can just eat before sunset. Those who do the Sandhya Vandanam at sunset, usually, yeah, they'll eat after sunset in practice. And from descriptions in the Vedas, it's very clear that sages were usually eating dinner after sunset. You'll often get explicit references of them worshiping the twilight, worshiping the sunset, and then at night eating dinner. Ayurveda does say that for the health of the body, it's ideal if you can eat earlier, but it's kind of, in practice, it's usually one or the other that someone will do. It's not like a huge violation to eat afterwards. Yeah, and then roots and fruits during Navaratri. It is so there's a lot of different rules for different vratas or different fasts. Whether you're fasting completely, of course, it's not for Navaratri. It's no one's going to prescribe that everybody fast from all food for 9 days. That would be very extreme.
Yeah. Wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't kill you probably, but it's definitely not a normal.
Yeah, without food. Yeah, sorry. I was thinking without water as
without
well.
water
Without
would kill
food.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would kill you. Yeah, without food, even that most people wouldn't. Like you're not necessarily going to be, like taking time off work or no longer having to care for a family or whatever. So you wouldn't want to be like starving and having blood sugar crashes, and no food for 9 days is more than most people can easily handle. Particularly while maintaining activity. So there'll be various types of fruits is a really common one. It's because it's sattvic. It'll maintain sattva, fruits especially, more than roots. To maintain sattva and mental and spiritual purity during the observance of Navaratri. Also, a lot of the rules, particularly with fruits and so on, revolve around perfection of ahimsa or nonviolence, because fruits are something you can eat without having killed a plant.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So there's various rationales and rules behind it. There's even some. This doesn't pertain directly to Navaratri, but to the Ekadashi fasts. According to the Shastras, certain negative energies during certain tirthas become concentrated in certain plants. For example, in grains during the Ekadashi days, which is traditionally why, even if you're not fasting from all food, mainly it's Vaishnavas who observe this, will fast from grains during the Ekadashis and so on. So there's a lot of different rules, particular rules for particular different vratas.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming.
Hey, thank you so much.
Jai Ma. Thank you,
Jai
Devi.
Ma.
Jai Ma. Jai Ma.